Good afternoon. If everyone may please just have a seat. We are getting ready to begin. Good afternoon and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing for the Committee on Health. If you wish to submit testimony, you may at testimony@council.nyc.gov. Once again, that's testimony@council.nyc.gov. At this time, please silence all electronic devices. Just a reminder, no one may approach the dais at any point during this hearing. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Councilmember Lynn Schulman, Chair of the Committee on Health. I want to thank all of you for joining us at today's oversight hearing. And I just want to make mention, I want to thank the admin for not only showing up on time, but showing up early. So kudos to you. The purpose of today's hearing is to examine and discuss the health impacts of air quality and extreme heat on New Yorkers. The pandemic and more recent wildfire emergencies have placed renewed urgency on monitoring and protecting the air we breathe, both outdoors and indoors. This committee has been laser focused on ensuring that New York City employs effective public health strategies to address future air quality emergencies, and our work continues today with a focus on improving indoor air quality. Americans spend approximately 90% of their time indoors, where the concentrations of some pollutants are often 2 to 5 times higher than typical outdoor concentrations. Health effects associated with indoor air pollutants include irritation of the eyes, nose, and throat, headaches and dizziness, fatigue, respiratory issues, and cancer. These pollutants can include radon, carbon monoxide, bacteria such as Legionella, dust mites, mold, lead paint particles, and tobacco smoke. Research shows that low-income families and communities of color bear the disproportionate impact of poor indoor air quality. According to the Rocky Mountain Institute, commercial and residential buildings are responsible for approximately 18,300 early deaths and $205 billion in health impacts, 1/3 of the health burden from stationary sources in the United States. Studies suggest that indoor concentrations of air pollutants are increasing, driven by factors such as the types of chemicals in home products, inadequate ventilation, hotter temperatures, and higher humidity. Meanwhile, according to experts from the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, many infectious diseases, including COVID-19, the flu, RSV, and measles, are spread through airborne transmission, which occurs far more easily in indoor environments. And yet, even though we spend so much of our lives indoors, we invest very little in monitoring indoor air quality. That's why we are considering 4 important pieces of legislation today that seek to protect our public school children and staff, city workers, residents, and commercial tenants from the many dangers of poor indoor air quality. The data is clear. Poor indoor air quality is dangerous to our health and well-being, and we must start collecting data and establishing standards to create healthier indoor environments for all New Yorkers. Today, we will also be discussing the impacts of extreme heat on New York City. Heat waves are now a leading cause of weather-related deaths in the United States, and New York City is expected to experience an average of 2 heat waves per year, with a jump to as many as 7 per year by 2050. Additionally, the number of days with temperatures exceeding 90 degrees Fahrenheit could triple by 2050. Long-term exposure to hotter temperatures can have significant impacts on human health. Studies have shown that sustained heat exposure is associated with chronic health conditions such as diabetes, kidney stones, cardiovascular disease, and obesity. Extended periods of high day and nighttime temperatures create cumulative stress on the human body, and heat waves can disrupt sleep, impair cognitive performance, and increase the risk of suicide or hospital admission for mental illness. At today's hearing, I look forward to discussing the city's heat emergency plan, steps we can take to improve response efforts, and preparation the city can make that reflect the reality of a warming planet. At the center of this discussion must be how we protect our most vulnerable New Yorkers from the direct and indirect effects of extreme heat. We know that extreme temperatures are contributing to a worsening outdoor air quality, with prolonged heat leaving more of our planet vulnerable to wildfires. The smoke from the Canadian wildfires spread to New York City multiple times over the summer, bringing with it the negative health impacts of PM 2.5, including respiratory issues. This summer's wildfire smoke was a wake-up call, and the city must continue to invest in better preparations for the next wildfire smoke emergency and ensure that the public is educated and ready for what comes next. I'm looking forward to hearing from the administration and the public today on how we can best protect the health of all New Yorkers inside and outside. I want to conclude by thanking the committee staff for their work on this hearing. Committee counsels Chris Pepe and Sarah Sucha, policy analyst Manur Butt, data scientist Julia Fredenberg and Ann Driscoll, financial analyst Danielle Glantz, as well as my team, Jonathan Boucher, Seth Urbender, and Kevin McAleer. I now want to turn it over to Majority Leader Powers for a statement on his legislation being considered today. But before I do, I want to highlight the importance of these bills. Intros 1127 and 1130 would take critical steps to improve the air quality in our public schools and city-owned buildings. We believe that intros 1128 and 1129 represent common sense, reasonable, smaller scale initiatives our city can take to begin addressing indoor air quality in commercial and residential buildings. I look forward to a productive discussion on this legislation today. I will now turn it over to Majority Leader Powers for his opening remarks.
Thank you, and thank you to Chair Shulman and the committee staff for holding this hearing today and giving me an opportunity to talk about my package of 4 bills to monitor and improve indoor air quality here in New York City. It's a topic that I think is on top of minds of New Yorkers between the pandemic and the wildfire smoke a few months ago that turned our skies red this summer. New Yorkers have learned all too well that the quality of the air we breathe, both outdoors and inside, is of tremendous importance and of increasing concern. We spend nearly 90% of our lives indoors, a frightening number. And research shows that indoor air quality can have a tremendous impact on our health. The package introduced that we're hearing today will position New York City as a national leader in promoting safe, healthy air across educational, municipal, commercial, and residential buildings. Intro 1127 will require the Department of Education to update rules setting standards for indoor air quality in New York City public schools and provide real-time reporting on an online dashboard to keep families informed on air quality in school buildings. I believe Boston has a similar model for that right now. You can go online and check out the air quality. Intro 1130 will require the creation and updating of rules setting standards for indoor air quality in city-owned buildings annually, including the building I believe we're sitting in right now. City will be required to install real-time air quality monitors in the common spaces of all city buildings and post that data online. Introductions 1128 and 1129 will require the Department of Health to set up a 5-year pilot program to monitor indoor air quality in monitoring in commercial and residential buildings. Buildings in New York City, commercial and residential, can participate voluntarily in that, but buildings that will begin to receive any financial assistance during the pilot timeframe and after the passage of legislation will be required to participate. While this pilot program is designed to be smaller in scope and limited to 5 years, we believe it's a strong start in the right direction. The data collected and best practices learned through this legislation will help the city understand the issue in front of us and create standards and enforcement in air quality. Engineers behind new buildings like 270 Park Avenue, my district, know the importance of indoor air quality. That's why that building was designed with double the minimum ventilation rate, better filters, and a real-time air quality monitoring system. As the greatest city in the world, why would we accept anything less than the best for our homes, our schools, and our workplaces? Again, thank you to Chair Shulman for holding this hearing. I want to thank Borough President Mark Levine, who played a very large role in helping to draft these bills and to move them forward, who I believe will be testifying here as well today, and to my fellow bill sponsors, committee staff, and other staff here who have spent months helping draft these bills, and all the advocates for their support. We look forward to hearing testimony today and to moving this legislation forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I'll now turn it over to the committee counsel to administer the oath to the administration.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I administer the oath, I just want to let everyone know that you have up to 72 hours after the conclusion of this hearing to submit written testimony if you would like to submit written testimony. If you would like to testify in person today, please ensure that you have filled out an appearance card. You can go to the Sergeant at Arms to fill out an appearance card so that your name is called when it is time for you to testify. Okay, I'll now turn it over here to the administration. Please raise your right hand. And you'll please respond with "I do" after I administer the oath. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and to respond honestly to council member questions? I do. Thank you. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Schulman, Majority Leader Powers, Councilmember Menon. I am Corinne Schiff, Deputy Commissioner for Environmental Health at the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and I'm here with Andrew Fasciano, Assistant Commissioner for Environmental Disease and Injury Prevention at the Health Department, Heather Reuter, Deputy Commissioner for Planning and Resilience at New York City Emergency Management, John Shea, Chief Executive Officer of the Department of School Facilities at New York City Public Schools, and Lana Kim, Deputy Commissioner at the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. On behalf of Commissioner Vasan, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on 4 bills addressing indoor air quality and a bill requiring an annual report on drowning deaths. The Health Department's charge is to protect and promote the health of all New Yorkers. As relevant to this hearing, we respond to thousands of 311 calls from New Yorkers each year about their indoor air quality, including by conducting inspections and taking enforcement action against property owners. Work with other agencies on indoor air quality issues, including New York City Public Schools, the Departments of Housing Preservation and Development and Environmental Protection, and the School Construction Authority, and provide outreach and education on ways to improve indoor air. We also issue data on causes of death, including by drowning. We appreciate the Council's interest in these issues. Regarding the indoor air quality bills being discussed today, we would like to work with the Council to ensure efforts to address indoor air quality will result in meaningful outcomes. 2 of the bills, Introductions 1128 and 1129, require the Department to conduct studies of indoor air quality by taking air quality measurements at multiple locations within every residential and commercial building that receives city funding. The Department has not yet been able to determine how many buildings this is, but we anticipate this would be a very large and expensive undertaking that would not yield actionable information. The bills require measurement of air quality components that are either already understood and have enforceable standards, so there is no need to study them, or have no health-based standards, and so we would gather information but not be able to use it to address indoor air quality concerns. The other 2 air quality bills, Introductions 1127 and 1130, require the Health Department to set standards for indoor air quality in schools and other buildings owned or leased by the City of New York, and requires the Health Department and New York City Public Schools to install real-time monitors in a variety of locations and issue multiple reports regarding the data collected. For some of the indoor air quality measures, there are already established standards and additional rulemaking is not needed. For others, there are no health-based standards and the Department has no basis on which to promulgate rules. For still others, the conditions vary or are controlled by the occupant of the space and are not generalizable. And while promising, the consumer-grade air sensors that are currently available do not meet the stringent requirements for air quality instruments required for regulatory purposes. The bills also mandate the Department and, for Introduction 1127, New York City Public Schools to conduct outreach and education on indoor air quality. We agree that we can reevaluate potential outreach efforts to maximize input. We look forward to working with Council to see what the most effective potential outreach efforts are to maximize impact. Regarding Introduction 1119, the Department supports providing the public with data on drowning deaths in New York City and already issues information in our annual summary of vital statistics. We would like to discuss adding the additional information the Council seeks into this report rather than creating a duplicative document. We appreciate the recognition in the bill of protecting personally identifying information. We would like to discuss the bill's mandate to report individualized data. Some of the factors we would be required to report raise privacy and confidentiality concerns, but we can provide aggregate data. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. We are happy to take your questions.
Okay. So what I'm going to do actually is a little bit of a reversal. I'm going to talk about the legislation first and then go into other sort of substantive questions. So on legislation 1119, which is what about the drowning, you answered the question about whether you support it. Does DOHMH collect or aggregate any data currently on drownings in New York City? I think you sort of alluded to that.
We do. As I testified, we do include information on deaths by drowning in our annual summary of vital statistics.
What does DOHMH see as potential obstacles to generating the report on drowning citywide? It's basically what you had testified to.
That's right. I mean, we do report on this, so, in general, there are no obstacles. The council in the bill is asking for some additional data that we are happy to include if it's included in the OCME, in the medical examiner report. Our concern really has to do with the individualized data that the bill asks for, and that we do have a lot of concerns about, and would like to talk about aggregating that.
What measures does DOHMH currently take to prevent drowning deaths in New York City?
There are multiple programs across the city, some sponsored or organized by the health department to promote swimming. It is a critically important effort, and I know the council has recently done some work, very important work, on promoting learning to swim. So we support efforts for children to learn to swim. It's important. And we investigate drownings to try to determine why those happen, if they happen in certain locations.
Okay, does DOHMH have recommendations on how DOHMH or other agencies could more effectively address drowning deaths in the city?
So as I think the council will see with the report, or looking at the report of vital statistics, there are very few drownings that happen at regulated sites. New York City has an extremely strong safety program. That is something that the department oversees in our recreational water program. So I'm happy to say that there are not a lot of drownings in places where we would really consider that to be preventable.
Okay, thank you. I'm now going to ask some questions about intro number 1127. Is the administration supportive of intro 1127, which would establish standards and reporting regarding indoor air quality in schools within the city school district?
As we've testified, and regarding really all of the bills, which have quite a lot of overlap, we don't think that we are really gaining actionable information with these bills. We certainly appreciate and agree with council that indoor air quality is important to health, and we do a lot of work on indoor air quality to make sure that New Yorkers know about the importance to health. But what we don't think is that we don't need real-time air monitors, which can't tell us information really that we can use. We don't need, as I testified, we don't need to study indoor air quality. The real-time monitors can't give us information that we can use for regulatory purposes, as I've said. So we would really like to work with you to focus on the outreach and education components of the bills.
Thank you. The City of Boston currently maintains a detailed online database where the public can monitor indoor air quality in each of the city's public schools in real time. This is called the Indoor Air Quality Sensor Dashboard. Each sensor records carbon, CO and CO2 levels, PM10, PM2.5, temperature, and relative humidity. This data has allowed Boston Public Schools to make decisions about school closures during extreme heat or extreme cold events, increase fresh air during school events with high emissions, fix issues with mechanical ventilation systems, and empower teachers to report air quality issues in their classrooms. Would creating a similar system in New York City be feasible?
So we are aware of what they have done in Boston, and again, it has not led us to move to create a similar system. Turn it to my colleague from New York City Public Schools.
Sure, thank you, and thank you for the question, Chair Schulman. Sure. First of all, on behalf of the Chancellor, we really appreciate the opportunity to talk about these bills on these very important issues. He is fully supportive of the same values that we all share. I'm familiar with the Boston program. I've actually spoken to my colleagues in Boston about the program, how they put it in place. We share Department of Health's concerns about the way that the bills are currently worded with the types of devices. We have a slightly different plan, and if you'd allow me to tell you what we do in New York City schools. First of all, every New York City school has a custodian engineer in their building, and one of the things that they're required to do every morning is to walk through the building and ensure that the building's ventilation is working. If they find any issues where it's not working, even in one particular space, they escalate those to their Deputy Director of Facilities for a priority repair. They also update an online tracker, which is available publicly. People can go in and see the status of the ventilation in any of the classrooms, instructional spaces in New York City schools. And every week they sign an attestation survey that they are maintaining their ventilation systems. They've also been given tools to measure airflow and the same parameters that the Boston system covers right now, only they do it with portable indoor air quality monitors. I actually have one here that they use. And we feel that that's important to have a person who actually has the training and the skills to take that meter and not only diagnose problems, but try to figure out what the underlying issues are and address them. It's a more active system than a passive system where the sensors are giving you information which may or may not be accurate. They need to be calibrated. They may or may not be working. But with a person with a meter that's measuring the same things, that's already happening in our schools.
All right, so with that, I actually want to ask, were you notified by the custodians when we had that big heat surge? And because I got, when it was like 96 or 98 degrees, and I got complaints from schools in my district that the air conditioning wasn't working, that some of the classrooms were overheated, that some of the students got sick. So I just want to ask about that.
Sure. We had a number of concerns and complaints come in about air conditioning, which is a very specific issue with the temperature. And we always work to address those as soon as possible. And custodian engineers did report those things up to us. And the buildings that we were tracking over the course of that weekend after the first day of school, everything that was reported to us was repaired by that following Monday. But certainly that was a difficult time with the heat that we had at the beginning of school.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to circle with you offline about some of the schools in my district.
Absolutely. Any specific schools, if you have issues, we're happy to look into those.
Let's see, yes, this. What monitoring of indoor air quality exists in city buildings as of today? Are there plans for expansion in the near future?
Indoor air quality is a broad umbrella term that covers really scores of components. So I would say, for example, there's monitoring in residences of carbon monoxide. Everyone should have a carbon monoxide detector. But there is no broad surveillance system across city buildings, and really that wouldn't be appropriate or necessary. Instead, we would like to let New Yorkers know about ways to improve their indoor air quality and keep it at high quality. But so the idea of broad surveillance for scores and scores of parameters doesn't really make sense.
Okay, thank you. I have other questions to ask, but I want to turn it over to Majority Leader Powers to ask questions. Before I do that, I want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Julie Menon.
Thank you. I have a series of questions, but I want to start with the first one. When you talk about the custodians every morning have to go and check out whether the is essentially the HVAC systems are working, is that what we're saying is their job every day?
Yes, whatever the HVAC system is for their particular building, whether that's a central system or whether that's a hybrid system, yes.
Okay. 2021, during the COVID crisis, it was reported underventilated campuses are more prone to COVID. This is in Gothamist, prone to COVID cases. And there was a finding that 4,800 classrooms in 615 buildings where the only way to circulate air is to open the windows. So that may be the system for the buildings that are currently have mechanical systems, but it seems like many don't. And so if the measure that we're discussing here is the custodian's responsibility every day is to check on those systems and report upwards, if I'm a parent or a teacher or a student in those school buildings, first it feels like there's a number of buildings that are not covered by that system where we're failing that. And second is, it seems to me, essentially the model that we're relying on is believe us and believe that the custodian is doing that, is reporting it, and then I did a very quick Google search to see if I could find the system that you mentioned. It was I have not yet, but I'll keep checking. So it feels like that system is not one where if I was a parent checking to know what my school building's air quality is like, where it'd be a successful system relative to one like Boston where I can find that in 2 seconds. It took me two seconds to Google that and find it. And in that system, I can have a very clear reading. Do you want to respond to that?
Sure. So the first thing is you are correct. We have a number of buildings that only have windows for their ventilation, but custodian engineers in those buildings also know that that is the integral part of their ventilation system, so they make sure that the windows are operational. If there is a central exhaust fan that draws air through the building, that has to be working. So just because those buildings were built at a time when the code required that as the ventilation system, doesn't mean that they don't check and make sure that that is working. And they still have to update their tracker, and that information, I apologize that you haven't been able to find it online, but that information is out there. I can share that with you and you can take a look at it, which you are correct. There's a difference between seeing parameters like the Boston system has as opposed to the functionality of the ventilation system, but we also feel very strongly that operating ventilation is the most important thing, as opposed to, if you look at the Boston dashboard, there are sensors that are out of calibration, there are sensors that are not working, so the value of the data is only as good as what you are getting back. We feel that having a custodian engineer in the building with a device that can measure those same parameters and respond to concerns in the building and have conversations and then escalate issues that are beyond their ability is the best way to handle that.
What data right now inside, so can you just tell us what is the data that's being collected inside of the school building right now? In terms of when it comes to air quality, the exact measure, like what measurements are you taking to measure for air quality?
So they will measure when they walk into a space, they'll use the monitor to measure what it shows, which is PM 2.5, PM 10, particulates, CO2, temperature, and relative humidity. They also have anemometers to measure airflow. So whatever the ventilation happens to be, they can check to see that air is actually flowing to give them a status of the operation of the ventilation system.
Okay. Moving to Department of Health, there was a quote that was said in the last response of questions that we don't need to study air quality, was the sentence. That is, and I want to take it out of context, so I want to give you an opportunity to explain that, but is that the position of Department of Health, that we don't need to study air quality?
We're really speaking to what's outlined in the bill, which is to place thousands probably of real-time air quality monitors to tell us about parameters that we already understand, or where the health standards are being developed or are unknown, and so we can't take the action that the bills would require us to take by developing regulations or developing recommendations for regulations.
Okay, so what is, when you say, so I'm going to talk about the actionable side about that in a second, but before that, when you talk about data we already understand, can you explain that, including what are you collecting? Like in this building here we're sitting in right today, it's a municipal building. What data is Department of Health collecting today about the air quality in this building, for instance, that would say you understand or are already collecting? Well, let me ask you this: what are you collecting today, right in this building right here today?
So as I noted in response to the chair, we are not collecting. There is no program to broadly collect data on indoor air quality.
Correct. That's why we're here today. But you're also taking the position that we shouldn't, and that even if we had the data, there'd be no action to take. I disagree with that. I think that if we had, so in buildings particularly where we don't have a mechanical ventilation system, which seems to be many, during the COVID crisis when it was well documented that there were ventilation issues all throughout our city school buildings, and I can read you the articles about them, and they were all in 2020, 2021, documenting for the first time parents and teachers and leaders in the city taking a look at air quality and ventilation because of the concern around airborne pandemic. There was a lot of discussion suddenly about what, and I think a lot of reports about the inadequate buildings and infrastructure here in the city, especially school buildings. And I'm not putting this on anybody. We have a lot of old buildings that need massive upgrades. We also have a capital budget, for school capital budget. We as council members have capital improvements we can make to our schools where they make sense, where they're possible. So I'm not gonna, I don't necessarily believe that they're not actionable, but I guess I'd go back to my question here today. Like, we're sitting in a building, a municipal building. Is there any data collected here today on a daily basis or weekly basis about the air quality inside this building?
So we don't mean to downplay the importance of indoor air quality. We agree with the council that indoor air quality is important. It's important to health. Where we are concerned about the bills is the directive to place real-time air quality monitors, these are emerging technology, and not going to give us information that is something that we can take steps to improve indoor air quality. So that's really where I think we differ. So the bills direct us to place real-time air quality monitors, which will provide reams of decontextualized information, and then to take those to promulgate regulations for indoor air quality standards. We don't need the real-time air monitors to promulgate rules because they either already exist, or we won't be able to use those mounds of data to develop new rules. What we do know is a lot about how to improve indoor air quality, and we agree with you that there's more that can be done to make sure that New Yorkers know about ways to improve indoor air quality, to know that the health department is here to take 311 calls and respond to concerns about indoor air quality. There's many, many steps that New Yorkers can take on their own, and we want New Yorkers to know about that.
Okay. But the answer is no, right? You're not collecting data into the building here that we're sitting in, as an example.
We are not, and nor could we use the real-time air monitor data that the council is suggesting to take the steps that you are also suggesting that we take.
Okay. What do you measure right now, if any, in how many buildings across the city?
We do not have a broad citywide indoor air quality surveillance program, and that would not
What about
be
specifically?
appropriate.
Forget, let's set aside from broad, specific.
When we respond to there are different things that we do, and I'll start and then I'll turn it over to my colleague who runs our indoor air quality enforcement program. So, for example, we will get a call from a New Yorker about concerns about indoor air quality. We will send an inspector and we'll do an assessment of the specific conditions in that apartment, and where appropriate, we can take enforcement action against a property owner to correct the condition. We have a program implementing really groundbreaking legislation out of the council to conduct enforcement for children and adults who have severe persistent asthma, whose asthma is exacerbated by indoor air quality conditions, specifically around pests or mold. We do a lot of outreach to make sure that New Yorkers and their doctors know about this program. We take referrals and we will go and do enforcement actions there. So that's just a sample. Again, this is a very broad umbrella term, indoor air quality. So we have lots of different programs, and they are tailored to the different concerns. Let me just see if my colleague has anything to add. Only if you do. Okay.
Okay. But you talked about in a specific program that's a complaint-driven apartment for residential apartments, if I got it correct. What about municipal buildings? What about schools? And what about common areas inside of buildings?
Sure. So we have multiple programs. One of those is a complaint-driven response program that I just described. We'll take complaints from New Yorkers. We will respond to those, including by conducting inspections. With respect to municipal buildings, perhaps DCAS wants to take that question.
Yes, thank you. So in our buildings, we do have the tenants who may have concerns about air quality. They will go to COSH, the Citywide Occupational Safety and Health, and the COSH will go in and do the measurements and give us a report back. And then if there's any actionable items, we will execute those accordingly.
Okay, so it's mostly a complaint-driven process in the city right now. There's no monitoring, there's no proactive measures to check on building air quality. Is that fair to say?
So Varies. Again, it's this is a broad umbrella term. I do want to just finish your earlier question. We also respond to complaints regarding commercial spaces, and I think Mr. Shea has spoken about the work that he does at New York City Public Schools on air quality. So there is a complaint-driven program, and I mentioned our program to implement the council's law regarding pest conditions and asthma. That is a referral-driven program by providers. We also have a program where we are doing work around construction dust, which can also create indoor air quality hazards. So we have a wide variety of programs. We approach the issue in many different ways, and it's very much tailored to the different kinds of concerns.
Okay. For the residential programs, can you tell us how many complaints you received in the last calendar year?
We'll have to get back to you with actual numbers. It's thousands, but we'll get back to you with the exact number for last
thanks.
couple of years.
So we're asking the city to take a measure beyond the complaint-driven process. We believe it's important and necessary, and I think COVID made a lot of, helped New Yorkers make a lot of observations about the air they're breathing and the ventilation systems that are in place. We have hundreds of thousands of people walking in millions, walking into city-owned buildings every single day. They're people like us, all of us. They're teachers, they're students, parents, and much more than that. And so hearing your comments on the legislation, there's not a desire, it seems, to collect data. I understand the concern about cost, and we're always happy to work with folks on cost and how to make sure the program is successful and efficient when it comes to cost. There's not a desire to collect data, to understand data, or to then take an extra regulatory action beyond that, to run a pilot program, to do a voluntary program, which we're proposing. So I guess my question is, putting aside all my other questions here, because they're all related to the belief that you would want to do something non-complaint driven, but putting aside all my other questions, I guess my question is, if you do desire, as you state, to, and you share our goals, what is the plan for moving forward? That's my only question at this point in time, because I hear a concern about the collecting data. I hear concerns about the equipment being used. I hear concerns about the mandate, and that we have a disagreement about what properties are covered under the residential and commercial piece of it, which we're happy to clarify. So we can go through all the concerns. I'm happy to walk through those, and I'm always willing to be collaborative, and that's the way I try to approach legislation. But I guess my question is, so put aside the piece of legislation. We're sitting here in the year 2023. This administration has 5 more years, or 6 more years, or whatever. I have 2. I don't know what to do, but what is the plan moving forward? Because I don't want to, we can go through all issues, but I'm not hearing a plan that meets what I think New Yorkers are asking for at this particular moment. We have noticeable needs in our side of our school buildings. We talk about the buildings that are uncovered. So I'm going to throw this back to you guys. Don't tell me that you share our goals. Share us a plan. And I want to know what the plan is moving forward.
So I do just want to first comment on the characterization. It's not that we don't want to collect data. The health department loves data. The real-time monitors that would be mandated under these bills, those are emerging technology. They're not certified by EPA. There are no standards that they measure against. So when we want to collect data, we want to collect data for a reason, for a purpose. And what we are trying to express is that the program under the bills to place monitors that are not yet certified tools won't give us data that we can use. That's what we're trying to say. It's not about a desire to collect data. It is that the data that the council would be directing us to collect here is not something we would be able to use to produce the outcomes that the council intends. So as for a plan, we do agree that there is more that we can do, that New Yorkers can learn more, and we've not done enough to help New Yorkers understand about the importance of indoor air quality. You quoted how much time we all spend indoors, and it's a very, very important setting for health. And so we do think that we can do more, and we would like to talk with you. You are working with your constituents. You hear from them. We'd like to talk with you about what more they need to know. Some of that outreach that we do, as I described, is affirmative. We are reaching out to healthcare providers to have them refer patients to us who could benefit from our enforcement action if they have indoor air quality issues that might be triggering asthma. But some of the work that we do is more passive, and so maybe there is more that we can do. We would love to work with you to help develop that idea.
May I also add a few things specific to schools, Councilmember, because you had brought up a few things that I didn't get a chance to respond to. So first of all, I want to be clear on the record that the health and safety of our students and staff is our highest priority. The air in all of our schools is safe. The School Construction Authority, you mentioned at the beginning of the pandemic, did a tremendous amount of work to check the status of our ventilation systems and identify repairs that needed to be made, and those repairs were made. And the system we have in place now is to make sure that those things still are maintained and operating. We also, one thing I didn't mention, have provided 2 air purifiers at least for every instructional space within New York City schools as an additional level of protection. So all of those things are actively working to ensure quality air in all of our schools. The other thing is that we share your concern about the buildings that have older systems, only windows for ventilation. And the School Construction Authority is not here, but they have made a significant commitment to electrify a number of their buildings and a number of our buildings. And one of the things we're working with them on is identifying and focusing on those buildings that have limited ventilation, because ventilation is a component of that electrification process. So there is a plan for schools to be able to not only continue to maintain, but also upgrade the buildings where it's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. I just want to acknowledge we've been joined by council members Feliz and Narcisse. So my question is, what monitors is Boston using?
So I will have to get back to you on the specific brand. I know I've seen it, I just don't recall off the top of my head.
The follow-up to that is, are they delivering data that doesn't meet regulatory standards based on what you guys have testified to today?
Yeah, as far as whether they meet regulatory standards or not, I would have to get back to you.
Well, I guess my follow-up question is, are you saying the Boston program doesn't work and is inefficient because they don't have the right technology, as you're criticizing the potential that we may not either?
No, sir. What I'm saying is that the Boston program is one thing. We feel that we have a system that is just as good, if not better, and in alignment with the CDC guidance, which is always saying that you should be spending your resources on maintaining and upgrading your ventilation systems as opposed to providing passive solutions that don't actually improve air quality.
Okay, so I have some other questions that I want to ask, and then I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues and come back. How many heat emergency days were there in 2023?
Hello. There was 7 emergency days in 2023.
Is there a forecasted number of heat emergency days for 24 and 25?
So we consult with the National Weather Service. There's not an exact number that's provided that far out in forecasting, but we work with them closely, and there's a seasonal forecast that comes out, and then we work to learn that and then share that information with our agency partners.
How often is the heat vulnerability index updated?
The Health Department creates the Heat Vulnerability Index. We just updated it in June. It relies on factors that don't change all that often, having to do with the neighborhood, so we update it periodically.
How has the Heat Vulnerability Index helped the city prioritize resources to communities at higher risk of adverse health impacts due to extreme heat?
Yep. Hi. So the Heat Vulnerability Index has been really valuable to emergency management. We've been able to use that to inform our cooling centers. As we work with partners, we look at that and look at the distribution of cooling centers. So when limited, making sure that we prioritize on days that the cooling centers can be in those heat vulnerability areas, as well as during emergencies and activations, making sure that we're taking that into account and it's part of our situational awareness.
What neighborhoods have been identified as having high HVI? If you don't have it now, you can send it to us, but we'd like to have that.
We'll send that to you. We don't have that
Okay.
offhand.
So what agency is ultimately in charge of activating the heat emergency plan?
New York City Emergency Management is the one that activates the plan and then works with our agency partners on executing the strategies.
Can you walk through the steps NYSEM takes once the heat emergency plan is activated?
Sure. So once we hit the threshold, we'll notify our partners that we've activated the plan. And then strategies will include interagency coordination. So we'll have a call with our partner agencies, and then different strategies in the plan are enacted. One major one would be opening cooling centers. A large one is also communication. That might be communication to our vulnerable populations through the advanced warning system, also pushing that out through our community groups, Strengthening Communities program, press releases, Notify NYC, and then we'll also look at, depending on the thresholds, if what can be done with beaches and pools and talking to the Parks Department. And then we're also monitoring the electrical grid and working with our utility partners.
When you make the notifications, in how many languages is that?
Notifications, the Notify NYC program is in 14 languages, including ASL.
Does NYSEM activate the cooling center finder when the National Weather Service issues a heat advisory?
We activate the cooling center finder. We turn it on when the day of the heat. So we try to put as much notice as possible, but we have to work with our cooling center partners to make sure we know what the days and hours of operation will be and how they align with the heat emergency, the day of the heat.
But how does that align with the National Weather Service when they issue a heat advisory?
So the Weather Service will issue the heat advisory, and so we make sure that the cooling centers are open the day of the heat advisory, and that's also when the cooling center finder will show those.
So it's
cooling
automatically
centers.
activated when the heat emergency plan is activated?
Right. So it's not automatic. It's the heat plan turns on and it sets off a series of actions. Right, and so the series of actions will be communication, talking to our partners, and then we start to work with our partners for turning on the cooling centers. But the cooling centers are open the day of the heat emergency, but we will activate our plan before the day of the heat.
As a quick follow-up to the air quality hearing that was held over the summer, when do you anticipate being able to share the after-action report on wildfire smoke?
Right, so we are aware of the council's request, and we'll be following up on that request as well to share
Have you
that
started
direction.
drafting emergency protocols, or, because that was mentioned during the hearing?
Yeah, so we've been took that very seriously after for the air quality event, and we've been working on expediting our plans and working on taking emergency planning efforts and working on that. And it's very.
You want to give me a goal of, or you don't want to say it here?
Prefer not to commit to
Okay,
that this
all
time.
right.
Thank you.
By the end of the year?
We're working. It's accelerated. It is an accelerated effort. We work very closely. Our planning efforts take quite some time, and this one, I promise, has been accelerated far above and beyond all of our other planning efforts.
Thank you. I have a bunch of other questions, but I'm going to ask my colleagues who want to ask questions. So I know Councilmember Menon had asked first. So, she left. Okay. So Councilmember Narcisse.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. Thank you, Chair Schulman, for doing the hearing, because that's how we find out. We can educate ourselves and see how the best we can make New York City a better place that we all can live together. Is there a specific benchmark for acceptable indoors school air quality? Is there a benchmark? You don't have one?
Indoor air quality is a very broad umbrella term. So there are benchmarks, as you call them, for certain parameters and not for others.
How often the air quality measurement taking, and how are they done throughout the school year, including during major temperature shifts?
So, as described, custodian engineers in every building have the tools and respond to concerns and complaints, whether those are ventilation related or temperature related. And we always work with principals and school communities to address whatever the specific issue is, because as we've spoken about, that could be a wide variety of different things that concern a school.
So, assuming that each schools work independently, the custodians and the principal, everybody train on maintaining the temperature shifts in the building.
Sure. So if we're talking about temperatures, every instructional space in New York City schools now has air conditioning. We spent over $400 million over the past couple of years to ensure that all of our classrooms had air conditioning, and
And the air quality measurement.
and the
Air quality measurement.
well, we did invest as part of our COVID reoccupancy plan in making sure that the custodian engineers have those air quality measuring tools. Yes, we did.
Okay. Are there penalties that probably somebody else can currently in place for city buildings for consistently fail to meet the required indoor air quality standards?
So the health department does have an enforcement program. We take thousands of calls from New Yorkers every year, and we respond to those, including by conducting inspections and ordering a property owner to make repairs or address the condition if it doesn't meet the standard. And if the property owner fails to do that, there can be financial penalties, yes.
So the answer is yes. What populations are the most vulnerable to adverse health impacts from periods of extreme heat? How can we best support vulnerable individuals in our city? What guidance does MH offer to help New Yorkers deal with extreme heat?
So extreme heat is the most dangerous of all of our extreme weather events, and it is one of the big concerns at the health department. People who are more vulnerable to extreme heat are people who have underlying medical conditions, the elderly, pregnant people. We do a lot of work to make sure that the vulnerable populations know their risk. The most important thing is for people to have home cooling. We know that people without air conditioning are at greatest risk. We do a lot to promote New York State's HEAP program. We were very disappointed when, again, this year, this is a New York State program, they were again unable to meet the demand for air conditioning that they provide to vulnerable New Yorkers. So one suggestion, for example, is we would love to work with you to make sure that your constituents know to get their applications in early so that they're sure to be able to benefit from that program.
By any chance, do you have data on the seniors and people that most at risk in our city?
We do. You know what I'd love to do is to send you annually. We issue a heat mortality report, and there we provide a lot of detail about heat. This is obviously a growing area of concern for New York City as our climate changes. I will send you a link to that report. It has a lot of very, very important data.
How does extreme heat strain our healthcare system?
Hello, Council Member. So we work with our healthcare network and hospital system during our heat emergency activations. It can put extra demand for anyone who's vulnerable and has extra strain. It can have additional emergency department admissions, and so we do work with our partners in real time to monitor. And then there's also the health department has surveillance as well, information that we can monitor and learn from during the event.
You have time? Okay. What public health strategies are DOH-MH employing to help New Yorkers deal with the worsening impacts of extreme heat and climate change?
So, of course, this is the issue of our time, is the health impact from climate change, and we have many programs across the city to address climate change and all of the impacts that it will have on New Yorkers. With respect to heat and the health department's work, we do a lot of surveillance and policy analysis so that we can support the council and our other agencies, including NYSEM, on steps to take to protect New Yorkers. We do a lot of work to do outreach, including for the HEAP program, so New Yorkers can have an opportunity to get air conditioning. Again, that is our biggest concern is people who live without air conditioning. And I lost my train of thought. So let me think and get back to you. There's just a lot of work that we do relating to heat and climate change, and we would be happy to talk with you about that.
How does work look like when it comes to NYCHA houses and seniors, like really high-risk neighborhoods?
I remember the other thing I wanted to say. One of the big areas of work that we are interested in is building community resilience. We know that community-based organizations are trusted messengers, and they are the ones who can really build community and for people to support each other. You will always hear us say during emergencies, not just the health department, NYSEM as well, this is the time to check on your neighbor, to make sure if you have air conditioning but you know your neighbor doesn't, your family member doesn't, time to invite them over to share that air conditioning with you. So that's a big part of our work, is making sure that community-based organizations also have those messages and can work with their residents, and they are the trusted messengers. And that can include NYCHA developments. We do work with NYCHA. We provide technical assistance to them and also get that message out to NYCHA residents.
Thank you. And I'm assuming the outreach does in different languages, because language access is very important to us in the council.
Yes, the health department has a strong language access program to meet not only the citywide mandates for language access, but to go beyond that where it's appropriate, depending on the community.
Okay, how do warmer temperatures in the fall and winter impact our overall health?
Well, I think this is emerging for all of us. Our summers are extending, and so the kinds of extreme heat events that my NYSEM colleague has described are ones that we may very well see earlier and later in the season, and so it's something that we are watching in the city and planning for.
Last question I have for you. Are New Yorkers more prone to infectious diseases and insect-borne diseases if the fall and the winter seasons become increasingly warmer?
Something that we are watching at the health department. We also have programs to do surveillance for vectors of disease that are bugs and animals. I think we may very well see animals that might have in our earlier climate have died over the winter, surviving over the winter. We may see new species arriving in New York City because we have a different climate that is hospitable to them. So I think there is really enormous and varied changes that we are looking out for and planning for, and it's a very, very important question.
Yeah, and I was wondering about the spring, when we're having it around the city, how you decide, because I live by water, like, my whole district is by water, from Canarsie to all the way to Sheepshead Bay. And a lot of time I will see the schedule. I was always wondering, because some schedule will be like around Mill Basin, but I don't see much of going on in that area. And I'm close to borderline of East New York, which is by Shirley Chisholm Park, so I'm not seeing those zip codes sometimes. I'm wondering.
Are you talking about mosquito spraying?
Okay. So do you know about them? Can you answer some?
I can take a stab at it. So our vector control work, our mosquito control work, is all designed to reduce the risk of West Nile virus. Mm-hmm. It is a very, very data-driven program that relies on integrated pest management. Mm-hmm. So we in the spring, we are watching the mosquitoes overwintering to see what the season is likely to be like for mosquitoes. And then we are taking action in the spring to kill the larvae, to reduce the population. And then we have traps throughout the city. We collect mosquitoes, we test them to see whether the mosquitoes are carrying West Nile virus. And as those rates of infectivity rise, that's when we act to spray. Our primary effort is to encourage New Yorkers to get rid of standing water. That is where mosquitoes breed. So when we do those spray events, we have a lot of outreach to New Yorkers so they know what's coming, and we define those boundaries very, very carefully, entirely based on the data.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for your gracious time, Chair. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I have a question. Climate is changing. You know, a heat wave is defined right now as it's 3 90-degree weather days. Am I correct?
It's 2 days in a row of 95-degree heat index or
Okay.
1 day of 100.
Okay. So given the fact, I mean, we had one declared heat wave this summer, but we had a lot of days where the temperature was just below that, but it was consistent for days and days and days on end. So is there any thought given what's happening with the climate and it's changing and everything else to maybe change how we define that for cooling centers and other programs?
Sure. So our plan, we do look at it annually, but we do consult with the health department and National Weather Service to always look at our threshold for the definition. But and each year, and we can always, as things look and change in the future, we'll always be evaluating our triggers. But for cooling centers, just as a reminder, there are senior centers and there are libraries, so they are open even when they're not activated as a cooling center. They are open to the public and have air conditioning.
And I wanted to ask a follow-up on the HEAP. Was it that the state didn't provide enough funds, or?
They're not sufficiently resourced to meet the demands. So
Okay.
we would love for New York City residents to get in there as soon as the program opens.
So, because one of the things we can do is go to our state reps and figure that piece out.
Would love to talk to you about that.
Please,
Yeah,
because.
we'll follow up with you. It's
we
so
have to put
important.
together the speaker's agenda for, at some point as we get towards the end of the year, so.
We will follow up for sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
please. That would be great. Wait, hold on 1 second. So I want to ask about Be a Buddy program. With resources what resources and services does this program provide to the community?
Be a Buddy program is that program, one of our programs to build community resilience, and it is to fund community-based organizations to help them develop networks among their community members as they see fit, as appropriate for their community. I will say that the program right now is on pause as we are looking at it anew, so it's not active right now.
Okay. Is that because of budget cuts, or is that you're just reassessing it, or?
There were some delays in funding, and so it creates an opportunity for us to take a look at the program.
Okay, we'd love to have a conversation with you about how we can be helpful there. Let's see. I think that's all the questions for me. I want to thank you for spending all the time with us and answering. Did you want to ask any more? No? Okay. Thank you very much. And again, we want to work collaboratively with the administration in terms of, I think we all have the same goals, and it's just a question of how we get there. And with emerging technology and everything else, I really appreciate all the jobs that you guys do. So we'll circle back with you at some other point, but thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks very much to representatives from the administration. Chair.
I would like to now ask, we have Borough President Mark Levine on virtually, and would like to ask him to give remarks.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and it's great to see all of you. Sorry I can't be there in person. I want to start by acknowledging how grateful I am to the leadership of New York City's health department, truly the greatest big city health department in the world. And I know they're leading now at a time of tight resources and significant challenges. So everything I'm proposing today, I do so understanding what they're managing. And I want to thank you, Chair Schulman, for your outstanding leadership of this committee. I'm really proud to see what you're doing and grateful that you've brought this issue to the fore today. After every pandemic in New York City's history, we have reconsidered how we manage indoor air. And it's changed the architecture of this city. in really profound ways that still impact us today. In recent decades, we've retreated from some of those practices, and we've increasingly created hermetically sealed buildings, which I'm not sure what the logic of that ever was, but we certainly learned during COVID, excuse me, that there's a real price to pay. Now is the time to look again at our buildings coming out of this pandemic as we think about what comes next and the inevitable next wave or next pandemic in this city. And there's no doubt that we have not given adequate consideration to indoor air quality in the city, in our schools, in our residences, in our offices. And I'm really pleased that we're putting forth a package of bills today that would allow us to take a step forward in that direction. That would get us the data that we currently lack, so that we can begin to formulate the policies, the standards that would allow New York City to begin to prepare for the next spread of airborne disease. We currently do not have adequate data on CO2 levels, on air change rates, on particulate matter in New York City buildings. That really hindered us during the pandemic. And getting that data is the first step towards beginning to set standards and ultimately to put in place remediation. Without that data, we can't track our progress. We can't hold ourselves accountable. And I believe that we can't do adequate science to understand the impact on public health. The bills we're putting forward today address this in every type of building in the city, public and private, housing, office, educational. And while there is a cost associated with it that I'm sensitive to, this is an investment that we need to make now in order to prepare for the standards and remediation that we're going to need to prepare for the next pandemic. So thank you, Madam Chair, for leading on this, and thanks to everyone for your due consideration of this legislation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Borough President Levine.
Thank you very much. And at this time, we want to hear from Lacey Tauber from the Brooklyn Borough President's Office. If you could please come. And you may begin when ready.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chair, and thank you for holding this hearing today. My name is Lacey Tauber. I'm the Legislative Director for Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso. While the extreme heat and air quality emergencies our city experienced this summer impacted everyone, as we talked about, the fact is that low-income New Yorkers of color disproportionately experience the impacts of climate change on a daily basis. So rather than focusing on responding to emergencies, we should be focusing on how we can protect these vulnerable populations long term, which will in turn make us more prepared when emergencies happen. So our office is in the final stages of developing the comprehensive plan for Brooklyn. You're getting a little preview of a part of it today. It has a focus on how the intersection of planning, housing, and public health. There's a few maps attached that I can see you're looking at, which is great, showing some of our existing conditions research about air quality and heat impacts in the borough. So you can see if you look at those maps that the outdoor air quality is worse on average surrounding highway corridors, such as the BQE, which runs through neighborhoods of color such as Sunset Park and Williamsburg South Side. And the maps also indicate a correlation between asthma rates and indoor air quality issues, as well as associated conditions such as mold and asbestos. These asthma rates and concentration of these complaints are highest in neighborhoods of color in North, Central, and Eastern Brooklyn, neighborhoods such as Brownsville, Flatbush, East New York, and Bushwick. And heat vulnerability tells a similar story per DOH-MH's metric, which we discussed. There are also, these are also the communities that are most at risk of dying during and immediately following extreme heat. So the repetitions of these patterns is no coincidence. Rather, it's a symptom of decades of bad planning and disinvestment from our communities of color and our public housing. The Comprehensive Plan for Brooklyn makes recommendations for how we can begin to right these wrongs through proactive planning for a more equitable borough. Some of those recommendations around air quality and heat include creating a new Million Trees program to improve the tree canopy targeted to areas of high air pollution and heat vulnerability, supporting the package of indoor air quality bills that are being heard today from, Councilmember Powers. I wrote botcher. That's not right. That was my error. I
I'm
will
flattered.
fix it.
Thank you for that.
Apologize, council member. And Borough
Always.
President Levine, whom we commend for a creative approach to a difficult issue. Advocating for capital repairs and more efficient responses to tenant complaints in public housing. Expanding access to cooling centers with a lower threshold for opening, requiring new development to implement cooling systems such as air conditioning or more sustainable methods like air source heat pumps, passive house design, and cooler green roofs, require developers to include window shades or blinds in new construction, and requiring NYCHA and all private landlords in high heat vulnerability areas to install window shades or blinds for tenants who request them. The last bullet is about interagency coordination, both state and city. And these are just some examples of our recommendations, which we look forward to sharing the full report with you very soon. So thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you for the testimony. I want to be on the record that I am not nearly as smart, talented, or good-looking as Eric Botcher, but one day I will hope to get there.
All right. Thank you so much. At this time, we are going to be moving on to public testimony. As a reminder, if you would like to submit written testimony for the record for this hearing, you may do so up to 72 hours after the conclusion of this hearing. If you wish to testify in person, please fill out an appearance card to ensure that your name is called. Typically, how we will do this is we will hear from folks in the room first. We will then move to virtual testimony on Zoom. At this time, I'm going to call our in-person panel. That will be Nina Prescott, Kate Kraus, Kara Johnson, Alexander Riccio, and Alan Watts.
I just want to remind everyone that there's 2 minutes to give. So everyone, I just want to remind you, we have a lot of people, both virtually and here, who want to testify today. So in order to give time to everyone, we really want to try to limit people to 2 minutes. You could submit your testimony. It'll be put in the file, and it'll be written up if you don't get to it. So I just wanted to remind folks of that. Thank you.
Nina Prescott, we can start with you, and then we will just go down the table, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, Chairperson Schulman, Councilmember Powers, and members of the Committee on Health. My name is Nina Prescott. I'm a Health and Air Quality Associate at RMI, founded as Rocky Mountain Institute, a nonpartisan nonprofit organization that works to transform global energy systems. I'm speaking on behalf of RMI today to deliver our comments on the proposed bills intros 1127, 1128, 1129, and 1130 that offer valuable advancements towards healthier air quality in New York City buildings. We've submitted written comments as well that are more comprehensive, and I will summarize how these bills can be improved, along with 3 points for why these bills are beneficial to New Yorkers. First, in addition to the current pollutants listed in the bills, we recommend including nitrogen oxides, a group of toxic gases, including nitrogen dioxide and nitric oxide. Nitrogen oxides play a key role in forming additional health-harming pollutants like ozone and fine particulate matter, and nitrogen dioxide exposure is associated with a range of negative health impacts. Including these pollutants in the proposed bills will further support the health and well-being of New Yorkers. Second, while few indoor air protective policies exist in the U.S., these bills show leadership from New York City to establish a first-of-its-kind indoor air quality standard for key pollutants that should serve as a model for other cities. Third, the proposed bills address critical indoor air quality concerns, including infectious disease spread, wildfire smoke, emissions from fossil fuel combusting equipment and appliances, and the unequal burden of indoor air pollution exposure in low-income and disadvantaged communities. Fourth, and finally, indoor air pollution is a health threat in all buildings that necessitates the proposed bills. The pilot programs will collect necessary data reflecting New York's diverse building stock and will provide New Yorkers with direct access to information for their health and safety. The standards for indoor air quality in schools and city buildings will benefit student and worker health, performance, and absenteeism rates. In closing, we're deeply encouraged by the proposal to address indoor air quality in New York City and believe that doing so will support prosperous, equitable, clean, and healthy communities. We have significant technical knowledge on this topic and are happy to provide expertise if needed beyond our written comment. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. can you please turn your microphone on?
Turn the microphone on.
If I could get the 5 seconds back. Today is a seminal moment in the history of pandemics in New York City. I sit here before you, the son of a man who once came to the city as an urban fellow and rose to become a city commissioner while making the city his home. The city is now my home, our home, and what affects each of us affects all of us. It's easy for each of us to forget this as we wake up in the morning, but the world has a way of reminding us. I sit here before you to support these bills, not just as another step towards ending this pandemic, the pandemic we've shared, but ending all future airborne pandemics for generations to come. 2.5 years ago, I realized what you've realized today, that we needed to systematically collect data on the indoor air that we share, and have spent most of the past 3 years running a project to do exactly that. I watched the governor and the mayor declare the indoor air safe, knowing that they made little or no effort to check, and seeing with my own eyes the many places that had never made a change. I also knew that officials, testifying some before to you today, would declare sporadic measurements to be not representative conditions across the city, and while themselves discouraging efforts to collect systematic data from across the city. The data that volunteers have already collected for me already makes the case for action. In addition to the measures proposed here today, the committee must take decisive action to expedite improvements so we might benefit before the coming winter waves of COVID. We must also enact guarantees that the rules promulgated to protect the air we share meet the minimum targets for stringency. I heard today from the first speaker, a city official, that there was indeed concern that they would not know what actions the council expects them to take, given the language of the bill. This is a good opportunity to correct that. Set prescriptive standards that they cannot ignore. I also heard complaints about the usefulness of CO2 metering. This is a position that is in clear contradiction, the consensus among aerosol scientists, not to mention the contradiction of the current advice of the CDC and other major public health organizations. We know the latter because we fought tooth and nail for it. I finished early. I'm supporting these bills and I want further action.
And I'm sorry, could you just state your name for the record?
Sure, Alexander Riccio.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you. My name is Alan Watts. I'm director with Sarazone. This is a Berkshire Hathaway company, and we're an indoor air quality management company. And what we do is we engineer and we manufacture technology to make indoor spaces safer and healthier. However, I'm not here to pitch a product or a technology. We're here to offer our support in these very important pieces of legislation. I'm also here to share in this once-in-a-generation opportunity to change the trajectory and the safety and health of the infrastructure of New York. As a lifelong New Yorker, I've seen the effects of New York City infrastructure deteriorate over time. As a senior executive professional in the pathogen control space, I understand the unique problems that our city faces due to the age and the lack of investment in ventilation systems. So the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us a lot of things and opened our eyes. And here's some three important facts here. Humans are the source of airborne disease and contamination. Number two, being in close proximity to others, it certainly increases the risk, the exposure to these harmful airborne pathogens. And number three, our buildings certainly lack the proper ventilation and technology to protect us from the risks of airborne pathogens and VOCs. We certainly can't live in bubbles, although there's a lot of times we'd like to live in a bubble, especially in this city. Although this proposed legislation, through the proposed legislation, we may find the opportunity to call this the safest city in the world. So how do we get there? So from my perspective, there are three non-negotiable pillars, okay? Science and technology, validated proof, and government oversight. So there are two specific pieces that are quite important here. Sensor technology, okay? Making the invisible visible. Understanding that reporting air quality is fundamental and is part of our jobs. Okay.
Summarize it, go ahead.
Just to summarize, we are here to offer our support in any way we can to help the city kind of become the city of the future in terms of clean air.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Schulman, Keith Powers, Majority Leader, and the members of the Council. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Kara Johnson, and I am counsel to Carrier Corporation. Our founder invented modern air conditioning in 1902, and we are now a leader, a global leader in healthy, sustainable, and resilient climate and energy solutions. We are here today to show our enthusiastic support for these bills, which will drive adoption and solutions to improve air quality at the pace that's needed, and will serve as a model for how to do it elsewhere, as New York City so often does. Our feedback falls into 3 buckets around feasibility and implementation, technical points, and rules development. And we've provided that in writing for your review as well. But today I want to go off script for a moment and respond to some of the dialogue that we had earlier. So the University of Chicago's Energy Policy Institute identified air pollution as the top global threat to public health. Top global threat to public health. But a point that gets lost is that the majority of our exposure to outdoor air pollution actually happens inside. So when you think about the wildfires from this summer and the advice to go inside, without air quality monitoring in place, you don't actually know whether the air quality inside is better than the air quality outside. So I will echo my colleague next to me who said that you need to make the invisible visible. Real-time monitoring is about that public awareness. Without it, the complaints-driven system that's in place today is not going to reach the public. It's not going to drive that adoption and improvements in indoor air quality. I'm also a parent, so I echo what you said earlier about trust but verify. And we just want to show our strong support again for these bills. Thank you so much.
So I have some questions for the panel. So, Kara, what science-supported standards recommendations exist for improving IAQ?
So there are a number, and I like to go straight to the experts when it comes to standards. There's the Well Building Institute, there's ASHRAE 241, which is the American Society of Heating and Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Engineers. There is the Lancet COVID Commission on safe schools and safe work, right? And a lot of times we think of these indoor air quality issues in silos, so COVID, wildfires. When you're improving air quality for one health attribute, you're improving it for all health attributes, right? So the Lancet recommendations are foundational. It's about having a tune-up for your building, so commissioning your HVAC system. It's about having that ventilation, but it needs to be filtered ventilation. It's not just opening a window. And then it's high-grade ventilation. So your central ventilation needs to be the MERV 13 or higher. Your in-room air purification needs to be HEPA or higher for it to be effective. And these recommendations align with the White House Clean Air in Buildings Challenge as well. So there are a number of science-supported standards out there that exist, and they are health-based today.
And what stakeholders should be involved in rules and guidance creation?
So in our view, it's really best to involve all of the relevant players. That's how you're going to get accuracy. That's how you're going to get feasibility. That's how you're going to get the buy-in that you need. So it's everyone from the environmental and the public health experts, industry experts within the HVAC industry. You have school officials, building owners, facility managers, and then the communities using those buildings are key, right? Again, this aligns to the White House Clean Air in Buildings Challenge, and that engagement factor is so important.
And does anyone have a response to the administration's testimony that the science isn't there yet, that the equipment is not available that can actually do the measurements?
What are they waiting for?
They said it's not proven.
How much proof do they need? The science can be textbooks thick at this point. The scientists have been screaming from the rooftops. Aerosol scientists I work from, there are hundreds of them have gotten together in letters, WHO, CDC, and it's entire, not kidding, this is an entire field of science, aerosol science.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the, not in terms of the air quality, in terms of the equipment that's being used to measure indoor air quality, they said doesn't meet certain standards. That's what I was asking about.
CO2 metering has been around since the 1800s. There are times when people in schools, actually, I can't remember if it was Chicago or Baltimore, In the late 1800s, they were going into classrooms with very primitive devices and measuring CO2. In the 1918 pandemic, they did the same for influenza in Chicago. I mean, these devices are not new. They've been used commercially and industrially for a very long time. What they need to know is that there are different types of devices that are more accurate than others. And if you set standards, say, requiring NDIR sensors instead of TVOC sensors, you will get better data. As part of running my project, I've collected a lot of data on this sort of thing and experimented with volunteers, and I've seen that there are some devices that are good, and all you got to do is use those. It's not like this great unsolved problem.
Okay. Thank you very much all for your testimony. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much to this panel. Just want to call again Kate Kraus, if you are in the room. Not seeing Kate. Okay, and just one last time, if you are in the room and you wish to testify in person, please fill out an appearance card so that you can speak in person. Not seeing any. Okay, so that means that we will now move to virtual testimony, and I'm going to call our first remote panel. It will be, and I apologize for any mispronunciations of names in advance, Paula Osuski, Joseph Fox, Janet Handel, William McQuaid. We will start with Paula. You have to wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony. And as a reminder, everyone will have 2 minutes for their testimony. Paula, we will start with you.
Starting time.
Chairperson Schulman and distinguished members of this committee, I'm honored to testify today to express my strong support for all 4 indoor air bills before this committee. I'm a contributing scholar at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, where I direct our work on indoor air quality policy. Today, I'm testifying in my personal capacity as a longtime resident of New York City. So the opinions expressed herein are my own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Johns Hopkins. Indoor air quality is important because people spend 90% of their time indoors. That's where we breathe almost a swimming pool full of air every day. But unlike outdoor air or drinking water, indoor air quality is not regulated. Elevated levels of some airborne pollutants are associated with many health problems, including pregnancy loss, cancer, dementia, cardiovascular disease, asthma, COPD, and more. Airborne infectious diseases, such as flu and COVID, also float in the air on the tiny bits of breath. When you enter a building, you have no idea if the air quality is good. Today's bills would make indoor air quality visible by testing the air and reporting the findings in public buildings, city schools, and in certain residential and commercial buildings. What's missing from these bills is a plan for what to do when the indoor air quality alarm goes off. If a fire alarm goes off, we all know who to call and what to do. At the Center for Health Security, we've crafted a Model Clean Indoor Act that describes what to do when that IAQ alarm goes off.
Thank you so much. Your time has expired.
No, finish, go ahead, finish. Go ahead.
Thank you for your time. That was the end. We're happy to help.
So I have a question. I know you're not here officially for Johns Hopkins, but what do you think that, I mean, is there a program that they're working on? Is there anything that maybe would help us in terms of scientific discovery or anything else around this issue?
You have many practicing scientists, or at least several, who are going to testify later today. But the different things that I quoted in terms of what diseases and so on, there's well-established scientific and medical evidence about the harm of these different pollutants. And as I said, when the indoor air quality alarm goes off, we need to know what to do. And so our center has crafted a model state Clean Indoor Air Act that actually the state of Massachusetts has already introduced as a bill. But this includes The very important points that these bills include, that is testing the air and making the reports public in real time, but also then what to do, if there is a problem, who should be responsible, and so on. And I plan to provide written testimony with more detail, and I'm happy to answer more questions.
Appreciate that. I don't know if you were here when the administration testified, but the New York City Emergency Management, we had a hearing back in August around the air quality, and New York City Emergency Management said they're working on an emergency plan for this, so hopefully that will be done soon, but in line with what you were talking about.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We're going to be moving on to Joseph Fox. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Thank you very much. My name is Joseph Fox. I'm a professional engineer who works on ventilation systems in schools, and I chair the Indoor Air Quality Advisory Group for the Ontario Society of Professional Engineers. I'd like to speak about why monitoring the air and having a system with accountability is so important. In the past year, I've seen engineers design ventilation systems to only provide 70% of bare minimum outdoor airflow rates from the current standard ASHRAE 62.1. Their excuse was that a permit was not required, so they didn't have to adhere to any standard. I've seen mechanical contractors replace ventilation equipment with new equipment that has no ability to supply outdoor air, so they could purchase a less expensive piece of equipment. I've seen school ventilation systems programmed to shut off the ventilation when the space temperatures are satisfied. I've seen dentists, doctors' offices, and childcare centers refuse to run their ventilation systems and claim the landlord asked them not to. I've seen schools with air handling units working properly, but there's an air distribution problem with the ductwork, and some classrooms do not get any ventilation. The current indoor air quality system is broken. It's primarily reliant on the honor system from building owners and facility operators, and they have a financial incentive to provide poor indoor air quality, and it hurts society as a whole. A complaint-based system is also deficient. The cutoff for what people might feel is poor indoor air quality is much lower than what is actually required to provide protection from airborne diseases or other adverse health effects. The system needs to change. It requires monitoring the air and requiring remediation to ensure people are provided with safe and healthy indoor air environments, just like we ensure people are provided with clean water. While there might not be a system in place right now, it can and should be created to create a safer environment for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll be moving on to Janet Handel. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Thank you, Chairman Schulman, Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine, Councilmember Powers, and other council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Janet Handel, and I'm president of the Waterside Tenants Association and represent the 4,000 people living there. But I'm also president and co-founder of TRAPAG, that stands for Transplant Recipients and Immunocompromised Patient Advocacy Group. TRAPAG speaks for the more than 7 million immunocompromised in the U.S. Since COVID began, we have lived very constrained lives, no indoor activities without a mask, no movies, no concerts, no indoor dining, no family events. Vulnerable populations are depending on you, the mayor, and the city agencies to keep us safe. We are speaking in support of this package of indoor air quality bills being considered today. Improving ventilation and monitoring CO2 levels will make indoor spaces for everyone. In particular, publicly posted CO2 monitors would enable the immunocompromised the opportunity to assess the risk before they go into a particular indoor space to participate in some activity. We encourage you to do the following in addition to passing these bills. Set standards, measure and collect data, and remediate as needed. Require indoor air quality monitors to be publicly posted so citizens can see them when they walk into a building. Raise public awareness on air quality indoor and out, PM 2.5 and CO2 as a proxy for respiratory pathogens, so that people understand when they walk into a building and they see an air quality monitor what that means for them. Further, people need to understand why they should wear masks when recommended during an air quality alert, and why they should wear high quality masks, not just surgical masks. Additionally, disseminate information on how to make do-it-yourself air purification devices such as the Corsi Rosenthal boxes. Consider making these kits available in areas with higher risk of negative health impacts without cost. And then modify building codes to require multifamily buildings to have robust filtration on indoor air takes and one switch shutdown of air
Thank you so much.
intakes.
Your
So-
time has expired.
You can summarize what you said and then submit the rest of it in writing.
Yeah, my last point was just, you know, when we had this problem with the wildfires, you know, all these buildings are taking that air in. They have, like, we have 50 indoor air takes in our buildings. They need to be on a one-switch shutdown. That's all I'm saying. The building codes need to be modified, so for a building, there's a one-switch shutdown for air intakes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now hear from William McQuaid. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Good afternoon, Chairman Schulman and members of the Health Committee. My name is Bill McQuaid. I am the ASHRAE Society Treasurer and have been in the HVAC industry for 30 years and a licensed professional engineer for over 25. I'm pleased to submit these comments on behalf of ASHRAE regarding the proposed indoor air quality bills. ASHRAE, founded in New York City in 1894, is a global technical society advancing human well-being through sustainable technology in the built environment. The society and its more than 53,000 members, including over 2,300 in New York State, focuses on building systems, energy efficiency, indoor air quality, refrigeration, and sustainability. This testimony is regarding the proposed legislation establishing standards and reporting requirements for indoor air quality in the city buildings and school buildings, as well as pilot programs to monitor indoor air quality in certain commercial and residential buildings. ASHRAE suggests that these ambitious bills would be further strengthened by referencing ASHRAE Standards 62.1, 62.2, which are both ventilation and acceptable indoor air quality for commercial and residential buildings, and ASHRAE's new standard 241, control of infectious aerosols. We recommend that bills 1127 regarding the school buildings and 1130 regarding city buildings incorporate ASHRAE standard 62.1 ventilation and acceptable indoor air quality in their requirements for indoor air quality standards. IAQ can significantly affect student learning and development, and the COVID-19 pandemic has increased awareness of the impacts of IAQ on student health. Adhering to the appropriate standards and guidelines is essential to managing indoor air quality. Standard 62.1 specifies minimum ventilation rates and other measures intended to provide indoor air quality that is acceptable to human occupants and minimizes adverse health effects due to poor indoor air quality.
Thank you. Your time has expired.
You can summarize the rest of what you said and also submit it to us in written testimony.
It has been submitted. Basically, 62.1 handles schools and commercial buildings. 62.2 is residential buildings. I think both of those should be referenced. And then our new standard 241 is really based on the knowledge that we gained during the COVID pandemic about controlling infectious aerosols and the components of that standard can also be used when you have air quality issues like wildfires and things like that to protect building occupants in those states. So ASHRAE's staff is happy to provide a briefing on Standard 241 upon request, including Dr. William Bonfleth, our chair of the committee who helped develop the standard. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to this remote panel. We will now be moving to our second remote panel. We'll be hearing from Richard Bruns, Jaron Burke, Dr. Serene Almomen, Ella Ryan, Matthew Cortland, and Sarah Evans. We'll hear from Richard Bruns first. You'll each have 2 minutes. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Distinguished members of this committee, thank you for holding this hearing. I'm Richard Bruns, economist at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security and one of the authors of the ASHRAE 241 standard. The opinions expressed herein are my own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Johns Hopkins University or ASHRAE. I specialize in cost-benefit analysis of public health policy, and I'd like to make 3 main points. First, labeling saves lives, even if the labeling process is imprecise. Second, PM 2.5 is the most important thing to label. Third, the benefits of labeling PM 2.5 are much higher than the costs. Imagine a world where there were no restaurant inspections and no restaurant safety scores. 110 years ago, New York lived in that world, and thousands of people die each year from foodborne disease and poison. The first step to saving those lives was letting people know what was going into their stomach. We should do something similar so people know what's going into their lungs and their children's lungs. The most harmful kind of air pollution is smog, technically fine particulate matter or PM 2.5. That's the most important thing to label and control. We know that any kind of regulation can get expensive, and it would be wrong to require new action if we couldn't show that the benefits were higher than the costs. However, we have many good studies showing that the benefits of reducing smog exposure are much higher than the costs, like 10 times higher. If you enact these 4 pieces of proposed legislation, then in the future, there will be less death and lower medical costs. These proposals will reduce childhood asthma and its pain and medical costs. They will reduce heart attacks, strokes, and COPD. Individuals and governments will save money on health care compared to a world where you don't control what's going into people's lungs. Thank you again for the chance to testify today, and I encourage your questions on the costs and benefits of indoor air quality regulation.
And I want to thank you for testifying and also helping to be a resource for us in our hearing today.
Glad to help.
Thank you very much. We'll now be hearing from Jaron Burke. You'll have 2 minutes. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin.
Starting time.
Thank you, Chair Shulman and Majority Leader Powers. My name is Jaron Burke, and I'm the Environmental Health Manager at We Act for Environmental Justice. I have a Master of Public Health degree with a focus on environmental health policy and air pollution, and I appreciate the opportunity to testify to this committee on a matter important to We Act and myself. We've already heard about the health impact of indoor air quality. These harms are not distributed equitably across race, income, and gender. Even before the COVID-19 pandemic, Black Americans were 3 times more likely to die of asthma than white Americans. Harlem, Washington Heights, and the Bronx also have significantly higher levels of asthma than other neighborhoods in New York City. Because of these health disparities, monitoring indoor air quality is necessary to identify sources of pollution and reduce exposure whenever possible. REACT supports the passage of Intro 1130 and 1127 with specific amendments. First, to require all reporting to include an explanation of any excluded city or school buildings to ensure that there's transparency and that all buildings that are eligible participate in the monitoring. Second, to require remediation and improve indoor air quality if necessary after gathering indoor air quality data. The data is only useful if changes are made and are required to be made. In regards to 1128 and 1129, REACT is concerned that they offer limited benefit unless amended. REACT has a vested interest in monitoring indoor air, specifically in residential buildings, as demonstrated by our pilot project last year to measure the indoor air quality impacts of gas stoves. Currently, 1129 would only require monitoring in common spaces and would not measure pollutants where New Yorkers are exposed the most, inside their homes. We'd be happy to see 1129 pass if amended to include monitoring in homes within residential buildings and or to include monitoring for nitrogen oxides, specifically in buildings with combustion-based boilers. We are encouraged by the proposal to regulate indoor air quality in New York City to protect human health, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak and provide feedback, and I'll be submitting written comments as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now be hearing from Dr. Serene Amelman. You'll have 2 minutes. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Good afternoon, and thank you to Chairperson Shulman and members of the New York City Council Health Committee for the opportunity to testify here today. I'm Dr. Serene Amelman, the CEO of Attune, and I'm here today to express our support for the inclusion of indoor air quality monitoring for schools, introduction number 1127, legislative proposal by the Council Member Powers. As the CEO of a company that makes indoor air quality monitoring systems for all manners of buildings, there is more to this support than our business model. There is a clear need to monitor indoor air quality from the perspective of student and educator health, academic performance, and facility efficiency. We learned this first from the COVID-19 pandemic, and most recently with the poor indoor air quality resulting from the Canadian wildfires. Attune is a national leader in indoor air quality monitoring in schools. We have deployed over 15,000 sensors in over 1,000 schools nationwide. This includes the Montgomery County schools, the largest school district in Maryland. In fact, we just deployed 10,000 indoor air quality sensors, which is double the size of the Boston Public Schools. We are also in Denver, Colorado School District, and presently we're working at the Atlanta, Georgia Schools District and schools of Las Vegas, Nevada, and among others. We have also worked with the legislative bodies in California and Illinois. Here is what we have learned today. First, we need to make sure we are measuring the right particulate matter and the right size. We recommended the inclusion of measuring particulate pollution size of 1.0 micron and below. This is among the most difficult particulate size to filter out. It also is the particulate size responsible for carrying COVID and other viruses. Having sensor measure particulate of this size will help improve student and educator safety. The current legislation does not include the size. The second recommendation.
Thank you so much. Your time has expired.
You can wrap up. If you want to give a summary.
The second one was related to adding a minimum standard for the effectiveness of the sensors that are included in school. We've heard some concerns about emerging technology and how effective they are. We're advocating to include minimum standard in the bill that require the sensors that are deployed to be tested in certified labs and show that testing so that the data that is provided is trustworthy and can help with decision making. We will submit written testimony as well.
Please.
But thank you so much for the opportunity to talk today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll be moving on to Ella Ryan. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Hi, my name is Ella Ryan. I'm a parent of 2 kids, and I'm here to testify in support of Intro 1127. Thank you for bringing this bill. Right now, there's an invisible threat in our city's schools, and it's in the air. The ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and the wildfire smoke that hit earlier this year have exposed the problem, but it's always been there, and it's time to sit up and pay attention. Speaking of paying attention, we tell our kids to do it. We tell them go to school, pay attention, learn, behave. Then we put them in a closed room with 20 other people and 0 ventilation. In rooms like this, carbon dioxide levels build, and at levels of CO2 over 1,400 parts per million, the human brain actually suffers a 50% cognitive decline in cognitive ability. Studies have shown this. Any classroom without central air and without a window open is probably reaching these levels on a daily basis. I have monitors for my home, and I disagree with the Department of Health's comments today that this data is not useful. I use this data, I absolutely use it to take steps to improve our home's air quality. Open a window, close a window, turn up a filter. Schools don't have these tools. They have no idea how safe, or more likely unsafe, the air within their walls is. I have 2 young children with developing lungs and brains. We had a year in public school, and then we decided to homeschool. We never planned to homeschool. We're doing it because the air inside most schools is just plain unsafe. Parents like me know this because we've been measuring it with our own emerging technology, also known as particle counters and CO2 monitors. I'll also say that the principal and staff in our school had very little knowledge about the importance of ventilation in classrooms, and nor did they feel like they had a mandate to do anything about it. It became clear to us that attendance was more important to our DOE than kids' health. So, if I knew that the air at my kids' school was clean and healthy, I would absolutely send my kids to school. Give us this data, pass Intro 1127, so we can see for ourselves what the air quality is like in our schools. Give us this data, set good air quality standards, educate our school communities so we can advocate for our kids, so we can protect them. Even better, make this clean air, safe clean air mandatory in our schools. Give the schools the funding and the tools they need to make their air safe for all our children and teachers. Monitoring is a really good first step, but we desperately need remediation, working central air in every school.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll be moving on to Matthew Cortland. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Chair Schulman, council members, and staff, thank you for holding this important hearing. I am Matthew Cortland. I'm appearing in my personal capacity, but by way of conflict of interest disclosure, I'm a senior fellow at Data for Progress, where my work is funded by the Ford Foundation's U.S. Disability Rights Program. I'm also an attorney. I'm admitted to practice in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. My graduate education in public health is from Boston University. And finally, I am myself immunocompromised. Earlier, the administration said that relative to indoor air quality in schools, quote, we have a system that's just as good, if not better than, unquote, than Boston. I'm here to tell you that no, New York City absolutely does not have a system that's better than Boston, but it could. From an internet-connected device anywhere in the world, I can pull up real-time data about the air quality in any given Boston public school. I cannot overemphasize how important that is to children with a variety of disabilities, children who are immunocompromised because of cancer treatment or rheumatoid arthritis, et cetera, et cetera. The administration seemed to place great emphasis on this being a, quote, passive approach, unquote. That might be true if there wasn't a BPS, Indoor Air Quality Monitoring and Response Action Plan, but there is. I'm sure New York City could develop something similar. The administration seemed to think that device calibration was a major barrier. They're calibrated annually. The devices are internet connected. If something appears off, it's easy to tell. Finally, I wanted to tell you that clean air is broadly popular with voters. In September of 2022, a poll of 947 likely New York voters, a poll not conducted in anticipation of this suite of bills, but a poll that found that 67% of New Yorkers support, quote, changing the building code to require businesses to install air quality monitors to detect and prevent outbreaks that could lead to pandemics. 67% of New Yorkers support that.
Do you want to sum up, or go ahead?
I would just close by saying this is incredibly important to disabled New Yorkers, and I know that New York City can lead the way here. And this suite of bills is in a fantastic foundation for that work to begin with. Mr.
Cortland, I have a question for you. Are you aware of any legislation that's been proposed in Massachusetts around air quality?
The Johns Hopkins folks that you were talking to earlier have a Model State Act that is being looked on very favorably in the Commonwealth. Boston Public Schools sort of built out their program without, there wasn't a need for legislative action at the state level to allow them to proceed. There was some ordinances in other communities, Newton, Massachusetts, where the former CDC director and the former COVID-19 response coordinator live, Ashish Jha, did a whole suite of school-based things that required some local ordinances, but it's really that Model State Act.
Okay. We're gonna contact them and get a copy of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll be moving on to Sarah Evans. You'll have 2 minutes for your testimony. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin.
Starting time.
Good afternoon. I'm an assistant professor of environmental medicine and public health at the Children's Environmental Health Center at Mount Sinai. I'm speaking on behalf of our team of pediatricians, occupational and environmental medicine physicians, nurses, and scientists in support of the proposed bills 1127, 1128, 1129, and 1130. As recognized experts in children's environmental health, we receive frequent inquiries from patients and families impacted by poor indoor air quality. Our environmental asthma clinic sees and treats children with environmentally triggered asthma, a task that often involves identifying and remediating sources of indoor air pollution in the home. The establishment of indoor air standards and monitoring programs will help inform targeted improvements to building conditions and empower New York City communities with data about the environments in which they live, learn, and work. At Mount Sinai, we see the impact of poor indoor air quality on the most vulnerable, children, pregnant women, and low-income and communities of color. Our center is situated in East Harlem, where a higher percentage of residents report maintenance problems, carbon monoxide incidents, and other housing issues that impact air quality compared to predominantly white neighborhoods. Recent studies also find that children of color are more likely to be exposed to air pollutants at school than white students. Such inequities contribute to the high rates of asthma and school absenteeism observed in Black and Latinx children in New York City and elsewhere. Healthy indoor air is especially important in school buildings, yet poor indoor air quality in school buildings is a pervasive problem. A national survey administered by the GAO found that 41% of public school districts had over half of their schools in need of renovations to their HVAC systems. Lack of ventilation in school buildings contributes to greater exposure to indoor air pollutants, mold growth, and increased spread of airborne pathogens. The proposed standards for IAQ in schools outlined in Bill 1127 will improve child health and well-being. A study of 100 U.S. schools found measurable progress in math and reading scores when indoor air quality was improved, highlighting a direct association between student academic achievement and classroom ventilation rates. In addition, schools that took steps to improve ventilation had a 39% lower COVID-19 incidence during the height of the pandemic. The proposed measure would
Time
also
has expired. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to say that New York City really has the opportunity to pave the way for cities across the United States, particularly for the most vulnerable, and we have submitted more in-depth written comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to this remote panel. We will now be moving to our third remote panel. We'll be hearing from Paul Hennessy, Dean Rose, Aliyah Sumro, Hikma Abdulghani, and Alina Neganova. Paul Hennessy, we'll be hearing from you first. You'll have 2 minutes. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Hi, I'm Paul Hennessy. I work in New York, and I'm just a member of the public calling in to encourage better indoor air quality. I support all 4 bills for this. New York must be a leading example in indoor air quality. Ventilation, HEPA filters, upper room UV lights, air scrubbers, frequent air changes, and more will reduce pollution, needless CO2, and limit the spread of all airborne illnesses. Better indoor air quality also increases alertness, which in turn helps students in school and staff in the workplace. We also need improved indoor air quality and air quality monitors in every public space, so the public is aware of this quality. This is a matter of disability access as well. Disabled and high-risk individuals deserve a right to clean air. This investment will go to help businesses as well. Me personally, I would go out of my way to support a business with good indoor air quality, and I reject the notion that we shouldn't implement data collection based on emerging technology. That's a made-up excuse to kick the can down the road when urgent action is needed now. In fact, Belgium mandated indoor air quality measures, and they're healthier for it. Businesses and public spaces need mandates, otherwise they're going to cut corners. I find it disturbing that the DOH staff say that there is a need to track indoor air quality in the midst of an ongoing pandemic, as well as the Department of Education staff saying school ventilation is in place. Schools in New York are now well ventilated. Furthermore, in San Francisco, actually, BART trains have installed denser MERV 14 filters and increased air changes every 70 seconds. It's time New York does the same, modernize HVAC systems on public transit, schools, commercial, residential, and public buildings. I shouldn't have to put my health at risk just because I go to a public space. The benefits of clean indoor air are tremendous, and it's going to make New York a healthier place. Humanity all but eradicated cholera with clean water, so let's eradicate airborne illnesses with clean air. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now be hearing from Dean Rose. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for this opportunity. First and foremost, this is a very, very important topic globally. I want to let you know I'm Dean Rose, CEO of PlasmaGuard Corporation. Excuse me. To be short of sounding self-serving, I'm here for informational purposes, really, on this important topic, and more cities, more governments need to really embrace this. Our company has been dealing with submicron particulate removal in airspaces for over 50 years, mainly in outdoor harmful emissions, all the way down to 0.004 microns in size. We focused that technology into indoor air quality about 10 years ago. Same science, and we've been able to not only address PM10, PM2.5, but all of our monitors, our particulate monitors that we give away for free with our technology for every building is PM 1.0 and smaller. The obvious threat of harmful particulate is much smaller than one micron in size. Certainly 2.5 cleans up a lot of stuff, but the real harmful stuff is even smaller. You know, I am only requesting the opportunity to present these technologies in a much greater detail at a later date with all of your experts involved. We have been leading globally in submicron particulate removal pathogen destruction, pathogen inactivation, destroying the outer protein lipid bilayers of not only viruses, bacteria, fungus, and mold, protecting everyone from schools and in office buildings and nursing homes, and of course hospitals, because we really don't discriminate amongst pathogens. It can be anything from COVID to
Thank you so much. Your time has expired.
Thank you so much. And please do submit your written testimony for the record so that we can consider it. We'll be moving on to Aliyah Somru. You'll have 2 minutes. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Good afternoon. My name is Aliyah Somru, and I'm the Deputy Director for New York City Policy at the New York League of Conservation Voters. Thank you, Chair Schulman and members of the Committee on Health for the opportunity to testify. I have submitted longer written testimony. One of NYLCV's top priorities is fighting for clean air, whether the source is toxic fossil fuels from our power, transportation, or building sectors, or wildfire smoke due to climate change. For decades, low-income and communities of color have faced the brunt of toxic air pollution due to environmental racism and historic disinvestment. Because of the neglect these communities have faced, New York City has one of the country's highest rates of asthma hospitalizations and deaths among children, young adults, African American and Latino residents, and residents of high poverty neighborhoods. On top of this, climate change is already exacerbating existing social, environmental, economic, and public health disparities. For example, New Yorkers faced a week of poor air quality when wildfire smoke from Canada blanketed our skies earlier this summer. Data from DOH-MH showed that New York City zip codes with the highest numbers of asthma-related emergency room visits were disproportionately in low-income and predominantly Black and Hispanic communities. As our planet experienced record-breaking heat this summer, coupled with the fact that recent reports have indicated that wildfire smoke is rolling back progress on the Clean Air Act, New York must continue working to reduce poor air quality and mitigate its harmful impacts. We believe that the indoor air quality bills introduced by Councilmember Powers at the request of Manhattan Borough President Levine are timely and necessary, not only to improve the health of all New Yorkers, but to combat the impacts of climate change and further environmental justice. I want to iterate that these bills also align with the administration's goals contained in Plan NYC, Getting Sustainability Done. That policy report includes developing a new air quality monitoring program in 2024 as a priority. NYLC.
Thank you so much. Your time has expired.
Great. I've submitted longer written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll be turning to Hikma Abdul Ghani. You'll have 2 minutes. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Hikma Abdul Ghani, are you online?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
You may begin. Hikma, we can hear you. Hikma, can you hear us? Okay, we're going to go to our next panelist. Next, we'll hear from Alina Neganova.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Let's move on to Alina Neganova while Hikma figures out her technical problems. Okay, Alina Neganova, you'll have 2 minutes. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time.
Starting time.
Hi, my name is Alina Neganova. I'm a master's educated nurse from Columbia University. I previously worked at the Hospital for Special Surgery, Mount Sinai, as well as NYU Hospital in the city. I am in support of all these bills. I'd also like us to think about making sure that we are consistently monitoring the CO2 to be less than 500. And I really want us to be working to make clean air. I think a lot of us were really terrified when we saw the skies turn orange. And I think that New York City has the opportunity to be a leader in making clean indoor air for the people. We are, you know, the best city in the country, and we have the opportunity to be the leaders in this in this to make sure that our children and all of us have clean indoor air. Like once we fought for clean water, we have the opportunity to fight for clean air now, both to prevent illness and also in terms of changes regarding climate change. I'll be submitting more in-depth written testimony, but I think it's important for all of us to be thinking about how we felt during that week and how frightening it was, and how we want to make sure that, you know, all of us have clean air when we're in our apartments and in our workplaces, especially as things like the Canadian wildfire smoke will keep happening during the summers.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to try to go back to Hikma Abdul Ghani. You'll have 2 minutes. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Thank you for allowing me to testify. I really appreciate you looking at this and taking this seriously, and I'd also love this to happen much quicker than
We're accidentally, believe Chambers is accidentally muted. We're working on a technical issue. Thanks for your patience.
Hello, may I speak now?
Currently having a technical issue. Thank you for your patience. Okay, we're going to be taking a quick break in this hearing to address technical difficulties. Thank you all for your patience, and we'll let you know when we resume. Thank you. Test, test. Okay. Are we ready to resume? Okay, great. Okay, thank you everyone for your patience. We're going to resume. Apologies, we're going to call up Hikma Abdul Ghani one more time. Thank you for your patience. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time.
Starting time.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Apologies, you may begin.
Okay, thank you so much for your patience with this. I think you may be able to tell I'm a mom. I was literally getting my son off the bus, so it got a little confusing for me. But the reason I wanted to make sure I was on this call today and was able to testify in support of this bill is because I'm a mom of 2 children in public school. I'm also a registered nurse, and I worked in the public school system as a nurse during the worst years of COVID. You know, I was working for the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and so I understand, you know, rules. We've been doing more with less a lot, but we have to set a standard to improve indoor air for the health and safety of our children at school, and that's where they spend the majority of their day is indoors. So, you know, we are living in a time where there's more airborne challenges than ever. With pandemic and with climate change, we can expect even more of this in the future. We have to set a standard now. We have to make a diagnosis now and do our best to mitigate the challenges that our children are facing in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, we are now going to move to our last remote panel. We'll be hearing from Nancy Julius, Anova Sahu, Liat Olenek, and Gita Sabah. I apologize if I mispronounced any of your names. First, we'll be hearing from Nancy Julius. You'll have 2 minutes. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin.
Starting time.
Okay, Nancy is no longer on. We'll be moving on to Anova Sahu. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin.
Starting time.
Hi, this is Anova Sahu, and I'm a resident of New York City in Manhattan. And I just wanted to say that real-time air quality monitoring is an extremely critical part of this bill, and the fact that this is being overlooked by the DOE and DOH is unacceptable. Sensors that measure CO2, PM2.5, and PM10 can help us reduce the spread of infectious disease, as many other experts have said today. COVID is still a threat right now, and we are currently in a surge. We don't need to think about the next pandemic, since we need the tools right now and this year. This winter, we will have another surge, inevitably, of COVID, RSV, and flu. And next summer, we also inevitably will have more smoke from wildfires from the north. The only way to change this is real-time air monitoring. Scores are not difficult to interpret. I have no air quality credentials myself, yet they can be extremely helpful, and they show green, yellow, and red ratings. Red is bad, green is good. We all know what this means. On a daily basis, as a New Yorker who has a gas stove in my apartment, I open my window when my professional real-time air quality monitor starts beeping or shows red. During the wildfire season, IAQ monitors enabled me to use air purifiers in my rooms effectively to know whether or not it was safe for me as an asthma patient. I could change the speed of my air purifiers to ensure that I was breathing quality air. And all residents of New York, as well as all children in schools and all patients in healthcare settings, deserve this. As a patient of healthcare, as we all are, I have been in many doctors' offices in Mount Sinai and NYU in Manhattan that do not have appropriate air quality. They have extremely high CO2 above the recommended rates of
Thank you so much. Your time has expired.
Now, finish your thought. Go ahead.
Ultimately, this is an imminent threat to health, and making changes in the next 5 years is not soon enough. This is dissuading people like me from actively seeking healthcare, since spaces with poor IAQ have higher likelihood of transmitting viruses and pathogens, so the DOH and DOE need to act right now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're going to be moving on to Liat Olenek. You'll have 2 minutes. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Hi, my name is Liat Olenek. I'm a public school teacher and a parent to a toddler and future public school student. I'm also immunocompromised due to a liver transplant and left the classroom due to COVID spread in schools. Finally, I'm also a climate organizer with Climate Families NYC, a community of nearly 1,000 families across the city who want our school buildings to be healthy for all kids. I'm here to express my support for Keith Powers' bill to monitor indoor air quality in schools and ask it to go further. As a teacher, I've had students miss days or even weeks of school due to asthma worsened by poor air quality from fossil fuel pollution. I also saw firsthand that the IntelliPure filters purchased by the city are ineffective and do not get used because they are too loud to teach over. With more wildfire events to come due to the climate crisis and the continued spread of COVID, we need to not only monitor air quality, but also urgently put a plan in place to improve indoor air in schools and public spaces. I also ask that the bill be amended to include daycares, including in-home daycares and informal education spaces that often serve babies and toddlers who are most vulnerable to air pollution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll now move on to Geeta Sabah. You'll have 2 minutes. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Hi, Committee on Health. I come before you today as a concerned New Yorker and parent in support of these bills. Like many schools, the DOE building where my child spends his day is over 100 years old and has no HVAC system. The DOE, we heard today, recommends measuring air quality levels at the start of the day with no children present, but that cannot provide useful data. I sent my child to school 2 weeks ago with a portable device to measure air quality, and despite air filters on full blast, the CO2 readings have been incredibly, dangerously high, averaging for most of the day above 2,000 parts per million of carbon dioxide, and at one point during music class, reaching a dangerously high peak of 3,287. To put this info into context, the recommended indoor CO2 level is typically below 600 parts per million. My measurements were over 5 times higher. Not at all fine, as the DO rep earlier testified. Elevated CO2 levels can have detrimental effects on our health. Prolonged exposure can lead to headaches, dizziness, fatigue. It can impair ability to focus, concentrate, and learn, making it increasingly difficult for children to excel academically. Studies have shown high CO2 levels result in significantly lower test scores on standardized tests. Furthermore, inadequate air circulation turns our schools into breeding grounds for respiratory illness, putting our children and educators at risk. The spread of COVID also impacts caregivers. For high-risk families like mine, we should not have to be petrified to send our children to school, praying they don't bring home an illness that could hospitalize or kill us. Studies support these findings. High CO2 in classrooms is linked to significant increases in absenteeism, an issue that is critically affecting DOE schools today. I would like to take a moment to thank our school for addressing this issue. After I raised this, windows were forced open that had been stuck closed for literally years, and some improvements were made, but levels still remain over 1,000 consistently, and we are still looking for solutions in several spaces. Had I not had the resources to send a monitor to school with my child, no one would have even been aware. Access to resources should not determine the safety and well-being of our children. Real-time air quality monitors are needed in all classrooms immediately. Teachers can open windows
Time
or
expired.
relocate
Thank
the class.
That's okay. Finish your thought. Go ahead.
Until better air quality can be achieved. I'm horrified to think of all the other schools and classrooms with dangerous air quality levels currently that no one is addressing because no one or some guy in the morning is monitoring them. I'm thrilled you are considering these bills. They will make our children and educators safer. And I would just like to add, 18 months is way too long to wait. We need immediate action. 70% of household COVID cases originate with school exposures. We will lose many more New Yorkers to COVID during the next 18 months, lives that can be saved by taking swift action on this bill. And we must set stringent standards so that the DOE can't sit there and say, oh, well, we're doing what we can, but actually do something to keep our kids and our educators safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now going to be calling on Sarah Putnam. You'll have 2 minutes. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to call time before you begin your testimony.
Starting time.
Can you hear me? I'm getting a weird...
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry, thank you. My name is Sarah Putnam. I have a master's in public health from Columbia University. I strongly support the proposed legislation, and I would like to say, please pair this work with an immediate public education campaign on air quality and health. I've previously worked at the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, including emergency response, and I'm so disappointed in their anti-surveillance do-nothing attitude today. Thank you, council members, for holding them to account and being the voice of public health in the room. Pathogens and particulates are present in our water, therefore we clean our water. Pathogens and particulates are present in air. We know these harm health and cognition. As a public health scientist, to me, it is clear that we should be giving the same attention to cleaning our air that we give to cleaning our water. Let me also share my experience as an informed citizen trying her best to stay healthy. As individuals are responsible for risk management now, I carry an AirNet 4 carbon dioxide sensor to help me make health risk assessments as best I can in indoor settings. With an imperfect tool. When I took my daughter to Methodist Hospital ER this summer, it was comforting to see low CO2 readings while she was so vulnerable. In contrast, I struggle with accessing settings with high CO2 readings like gyms, public transportation, restaurants, cultural venues. In fall 2021, air quality mitigations were a critical driver for sending my children back to public school. Now, as those mitigations fall away during a still ongoing pandemic, and my children are the ones who are plugging in classroom air filters or opening windows, not their teachers, not their custodians, I find myself questioning our relationship with the school system for the first time. A citywide real-time systemic solution helps the entire city, which is fundamental to the meaning and duty of public health. And I'll leave you with this last anecdote. Last month, my daughter reported an elevated CO2 reading to her principal. She carried the AirNet 4 with her. The principal alerted custodial staff, and within 20 minutes of her call, technicians arrived on site and diagnosed a problem with a belt in the ventilation system. My daughter's real-time air monitoring, her principal's excellent response, and the speed with which it was handled improved the air quality for the entire school community. That is what a healthy future looks like, and that is what I hope this legislation can achieve on a citywide scale. Thank you, Chair Schulman, and all the committee members for hearing my testimony today.
Thank you very much for testifying.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to call the names of folks who were not online at the time that they were originally to be called. Nancy Julius, Lonnie Portis, Makrand Boot, Sandra G, Mary Tan, Demi Ajao, Christina Choi, Erica Russi, okay. And at this time, if there's anyone who is currently on Zoom who did not hear their name called but would like to testify, please indicate so using the Zoom raise hand function. Okay, seeing no hands, we will turn it back over to the chair for closing remarks.
First, before we end, I want to acknowledge that Councilmember Marjorie Velazquez was on virtually. I also want to say that I am a proud co-prime sponsor of the equality bills that were heard today. I want to thank the administration for their testimony. I particularly want to thank the members of the public, many of whom are experts, and we will be following up with them. And I'm very confident that we can come to some kind of resolution in getting these bills moved forward and passed in the council. And with that, I will close today's hearing. Thank you to all.